Good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 30th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Chantele. How you doing, Chantele?
I'm doing pretty well under the circumstances. I find it really amazing with this season that every single week that I'm like, oh, it's going to be a boring week. I kind of know what's going to happen, and then that doesn't happen at all. So I'm happy to get to it and talk about it.
Yes, well, we are here to talk about everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 24 live feeds. It was day 55 in the house, and just more fallout from the events of the last few days, really. We did learn more about what happened the night before in the house meeting, and really just progressing through the rest of this week. Now, if you don't know what's been happening, of course, Turner is the HOH. He nominated Brittany and Taylor with the intent to backdoor Michael, but then Michael won the veto, and Michael and Brittany divulged all of the information they had on Kyle, including the comments and actions taken by Kyle about the fear of a Cookout 2.0 alliance. It disturbed the house, and Turner was convinced to put Kyle on the block as a replacement for Brittany once Michael decided to use the veto. That ceremony is going to happen here today on day 55. The feeds were down for a large portion of yesterday, including with the initial conversation with Taylor and Monty, where they learned about Kyle's comments, and when the meeting occurred after Kyle came out of the diary room, and he apparently had some sort of, first of all, interaction with Brittany that was prior to this meeting, and then a supposedly big house meeting where some things happened. So we did learn some things about this meeting, well, even though the feeds were down during it. We're going to hear about it a little bit more today. Apparently, Kyle basically outed everything about his game, including what happened outside with the after party and all of that, and including his final two with Turner. And this is one of the reasons why Turner very quickly had gotten on board with the idea of Kyle leaving instead of still targeting Taylor last night. And he also admitted, apparently, in this meeting that his thoughts were based in racial bias, and apologized. He is later going to be talking to Terrence as well, and talked about his ignorance about the topic. And we also apparently are going to learn that Terrence had gotten heated at some point. He apologized to Turner about it because he said, in his words, that he may have been overly aggressive in the conversation. We believe may have called out Brittany for I think at first we thought perhaps the timing of the reveal, the thing that a lot of people outside have been looking at. I think based on their conversation later, I think it's more likely that Terrence was upset that he was not told directly by Michael and Brittany, which he was upset about in that moment. They're going to try and clear that up, or it was cleared up. Okay, basically what we think happened is that Terrence was mad that they didn't tell him directly, and they told Monty and Taylor, and they told basically everyone. They told Turner, they told Alyssa. They never told Terrence about it directly. He was upset about that, went off on Brittany and or Michael about it, and then afterward was told by Monty and Taylor, actually, we were the ones that asked them to not tell you, because Monty specifically wanted to be the one to tell Terrence. And so Terrence is going to tell Brittany, like, yeah, kind of wish that Monty had stopped me in the moment to let me know that, so I didn't look like, I was just going after you for no reason.
No, absolutely. I mean, Terrence has been really frustrating for me because, like, on top of all that, he wants to give Kyle grace for the whole situation. I'm just like, people seem to need to be playing this game exactly how he thinks that they're playing or how he wants them to be playing the game. And it's kind of like, you haven't been working with them, you've been targeting them. And I understand, like, you would want to be in the loop with something that's so important that does involve him in this particular game. But the fact that he even went off on them, I'm just like, Terrence, what are you doing? Like, what? Like, choose not to do that. It would be, no matter what, it would be better for you in the game, out of the game, to not immediately react in how you described, or he describes, as an aggressive fashion. So I wasn't a big fan of Terrence yesterday.
Yes. So that's as much as we sort of know about the meeting. I'm assuming that we are going to see a version of it on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the version of it that sells the story that they want to sell. That will probably include a conversation that we'll talk about later with Terrence and Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
That they felt fully fine to leave up on the feeds, but not some other things. Um, Really, I just again think that, like, and they'll try it and maybe it'll work and maybe I'll be wrong, but I really just feel like they should have just aired this full meeting.
Mm-hmm.
If Kyle did admit that his thoughts were based on racial bias and apologized for it, I think that goes a long way to, like, that's a lot better to hear than to continue to hear like defense about it,
Mm-hmm.
denial, stuff like that. The fact that we didn't see that means that, like, nobody's gonna get any of that sort of, like, not closure, but like feeling like it's being acknowledged.
Mhm. Absolutely, and I think Maggie was talking about, or both of you were talking about, the fact that, like, let us understand how to deal with these matters. And I think that that's also really important. Like, I know that a lot of people are coming for Brittany and Michael with the timing and using race as strategy, and I totally understand, and I agree with that sentiment. But also not showing it and giving us tools to be able to handle these situations in the future, I think is also frustrating as a viewer, as maybe a potential player in a future season. Like, if Michael and Brittany don't know necessarily how to use this information while playing a game, it's like they have to really debate between moral dilemma, ethical dilemma, gameplay. Do I want to win the game? Am I supposed to be more like, it's definitely a conflict that they were going through, and not knowing necessarily how to make the right decision about it. And so the fact that they've been hiding so much from us, like, I want to see their struggles and, like, and how people are reacting, because it's going to inform me if I were ever to play this game and I have some information that's unsavory about a player, like, how to be able to use it in a way that is morally sound or ethically sound.
Hmm. So that's pretty much what's happening here at the beginning of the day. We are going to get to the veto ceremony where Michael used the veto on Brittany and replaced her, and Turner replaced her with Kyle. So Kyle is now on the block officially. Now, apparently there were some speeches made during the veto ceremony. Some things happened there, but we're pretty quickly going to hear from Terrence that he thinks weirdo move by Michael to not use the veto on Taylor after all of this and to instead take down Brittany. And by the way, we should vote Taylor out because I think that we should give Kyle a chance to,
Learn.
learn and recover from this.
This is the beginning of where I was like, Terrence, like, not the right answer. But can you explain to me, because I was actually trying to wrap my head around the logic of, like, why he should have taken off Taylor. Like, I definitely wanted him to take off Taylor, but I also knew that it would maybe force the hand of Turner to, like, not want to put up Monty if that was going to be his other choice, and not want to have two black people on the block. So that was why I was thinking that he didn't want to take down Taylor, just to make it more likely that he would put up Kyle. So can you explain to me why it was such a terrible move? Like, it's just because he was championing for, doing the right thing racially? Is that why? I'm still kind of
Well,
confused by it.
I think also there was a fear that if Brittany stayed up there, that Kyle might not leave.
Right.
That they
That's
may
true.
end up flipping the votes, and that's what Brittany was worried about in the morning. Was that, after Terrence was upset with her, and there's talk about this stuff. She's like, people could vote me out. and they could vote me out even just to hurt you,
Yeah, to get
Michael.
up Michael. Right.
And so she was concerned about that. But I think I think it's difficult to know. I think that obviously, the intent was always to remove Brittany from the block. I think maybe that they're based on like the speeches made at the veto ceremony. I think there was somebody said at some point, like, after Taylor gave that speech, it looked weird for Michael to not use the veto on her. So who knows? But this is also, it's mostly coming from Terrence. So it's like,
And
I don't
Turner
really,
a little bit too. And I was like,
yeah. So yeah, because Turner talked about it too, but like, I think the thing with Turner is that like he's really anti Michael right now. So like, I don't know if it's like a place of genuine, especially because this is Turner, who's like, he kind of wants Taylor out too. Like, it's the two people that want Taylor out that are like, why didn't you use the veto on Taylor? So
right. Okay,
I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to know without seeing it. But yes, basically, Terrence is pitching to Monty that, hey, sending Kyle out doesn't help him in any way. And if he stays, it will give him an opportunity to grow and change the stigma inside of him. And Monty's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, first of all, he's like, look, I don't want to cut Kyle out of my life. I do I do think that he can grow and learn and change, but I also think he needs to face the consequences of his actions in this house. And I also don't think he can be trusted. And so I think he needs to go. It's not like we're sending him to jail. He's just going to the jury house. And I think that's okay.
I definitely think it's okay. I mean, allowing him to have the opportunity to still win $750,000. It's just like, it's wild to me from what Terrence has learned here. And I also want to know, like, Terrence, you give so much grace here to Kyle. Where is that grace that you could easily be offering to Taylor? Like, I have not seen Taylor do anything even close to what Kyle has been doing in this game, and there's like zero room for grace from Terrence to Taylor. And so that also was really frustrating me about what Terrence was choosing to champion for. Like, it's definitely not Taylor, and Taylor is experiencing some of the things that you've experienced in this game with Kyle, and he wants Kyle to have some grace and be, let him learn from his actions. It's like, not the right answer.
It's definitely a strange stance here. I think maybe the most generous version of to interpret these events or these thought processes is just like, Kyle in the game is better for Terrence, and so because he has like a personal sort of agenda there, it's sort of like clouding his mind and focusing on Kyle. But definitely, I think when it's Taylor right there, and the way that he's treated Taylor all season, it's just like it's especially like, all right, Terrence, come on.
Like, he needs to learn his lesson soon. Hopefully, his time's coming.
So Brittany's also going to talk to Terrence again. She's going to apologize for not telling Terrence about the situation herself, that Monty wanted to tell him himself, and she should have pushed back more. She should have told Terrence herself, because she had a good relationship with Terrence, and she apologizes. Terrence said, oh, don't worry about it. I get it now. I just, again, wish that Monty would have stopped me in the moment instead of waiting until after to tell me that he was the one that wanted you to not tell me. And they also talk more about what happened last week, and how Kyle ratted out the leftovers immediately. And he also pitches her on the idea of, so what if we kept Kyle around? And it's like,
I'm wondering if the reason why he feels as though this is the right direction to push is because he had some power last week, because like read the room, maybe see what people are like. There's no way that Brittany and Michael would have brought this information up if they were planning on keeping him in the end. And if he wants to keep the after party strong, like all of it, it's just so transparent to me that like that's not what they're going to be wanting to do. And I'm just so frustrated with him for still pushing it and being like, hey, like maybe we should do this. Like, what would you think about it? And then it's like, I think that he should go. That's why I brought up this information, Terrence. Why are you pushing this agenda when, like, chances are it's not going to happen, especially with Brittany.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not gonna happen, especially with Brittany is completely true. Monty is the key here, of course. If Monty decided to keep Kyle, Kyle would stay, but Monty has no intention of keeping Kyle, nor should he. I've seen some people talk about like, oh man, what a dilemma. He's got to choose between morals and game. Like, no, same side. He should definitely want Kyle out, in my opinion. Like, this
Definitely.
is good.
I mean, I don't know how I feel about his reads in general, but like the fact he did say at one point, I believe it was yesterday, that like, hey, like I think that they're going to be coming for me if like that if Michael wasn't the option. Like I think that I could have very easily have been like the next option there. So, and he's right about that. And so I definitely would want to get Kyle out, especially with Kyle blowing up everybody's game in the veto meeting. Like he is such a liability to people's games, and he just blows everything that he's involved in up. He calls it pivoting. I call it like blowing up people's game and ruining his own in the end.
Yeah. So Monty is going to talk to Turner about Terrence and how he wants to keep Kyle. Monty doesn't think that they should keep Kyle. They also, now this is where there's definitely a conversation about the timing of Michael and Brittany using this information now as opposed to earlier. They both kind of agree that it was shady to do. And that Michael and Brittany need to go, especially, of course, Michael. They just need to beat him. They just need to beat him at some point.
I don't think that they can, to be honest. Like, the competitions that he's won are the ones that everybody should be winning. And because I feel as though coming down to the end game, like if it's all competition about days and numbers, even if it has the physical aspect to it, I do think that he's in the best shape. I believe he was talking to Brittany at some point today, Michael, and saying like, oh yeah, Taylor's kind of studying. She doesn't really know anything. Like, I think that he knows probably the most about what's been going on in the game and knows to study the most. I think he's probably the biggest fan, him and Brittany, in the house right now. So, yeah, I don't think that they're going to be able to beat him. I don't think so.
I mean, like the one competition that I would have given Monty over Michael in terms of just, it was slip and slide. Like that's what Monty really should have had over Michael. And the fact that Michael apparently won with ease over Monty here, that's not great. And then even just like obviously with studying and questions, I would assume that Michael will do well at those, but even just like quick reflex seeing things on a screen, he won that knockout comp. Like guessing things in a jar, he would have won if he hadn't been folding. Like where is his weakness? We haven't found it yet. We have not seen a single competition other than a complete random one where Michael has not either come close to winning and thrown it or just straight up come close to winning. Like he's good seemingly at everything.
Somebody was that I was watching was saying that it could be the people that do well in slip and slide are people that are from cold climates. Was this Kristen? I can't remember. But I think that that's actually something to maybe take a look at, because you know what? I have skied before. I have, played hockey before. So having that motion to like, kind of slide on up there, I think it'd be very valid. Do we know where Monty's from?
No.
I've
heard it plenty of times before, but I do not remember. I think it's Delaware.
Oh, I don't know if I feel like that's.
Is that right? Cool. No. Sorry, that's. No. I think that's right. Okay.
Delaware.
Hometown Bear, Delaware.
Okay, I don't know where Bear, Delaware is, but I feel like it could have cold weather, right? Is it a cold state?
I think so.
Okay. So our theory's out the window, but I was definitely like, that's a good thought. That's a good thought. But maybe you never played hockey, Monty.
Yeah. All right. Well, so they talk about that. Monty is going to also bring up a little bit later that Taylor is still talking about like the four. And Turner is going to kind of start to want, like, should we just take out Taylor then? Like, shouldn't we just take out Taylor? Turner is also going to pitch this to Monty. Monty again though is going to say no. And he is going to say Kyle has to go. He says even though Taylor is still talking about the four, meaning the four Taylor, Monty, Brittany, Michael, that she's willing and okay with the shot being taken at Michael, and he's going to talk to her specifically about that as well, just a little bit.
So one thing with Taylor Turner not wanting to keep Taylor around, it's like you did just put her up, and so like and she was on the inside, and so the fact that she's not including him in necessarily in the four that she's trying to keep together, it just makes sense to me. Like he did draw a line here, and so like what have you guys had a conversation yet for her to be like, hey, like yeah, we are still working together, leftover strong. I know this week we kind of changed things up, but now let's reset and go back to leftover strong. Like that hasn't happened. So the fact that he's like so surprised that she's not including him in the foursome that was kind of solidified when he made his nominations, I think it's a little bit silly.
Mm-hmm. So Michael is going to talk with Brittany and Taylor. They're talking about how Terrence wants Kyle to stay because Brittany is letting them know that he pitched to her about it. They have to assume that Terrence, Alyssa, and Turner are still working together, and it's going to be them plus Monty against those three. Hopefully they have Monty. Obviously, Monty appears to be in this sort of swing position, but as long as they have Monty, Taylor should be safe. It's just a matter of, having him, but they trust Monty for this vote at the very least.
Yeah, I think we can trust Monty for this very vote. I do get a little bit wary when they have conversations about things in front of Monty because he does seem to take it to the other side a little bit. And I get it. He's playing the middle. And so you kind of have to run information back and forth. But I'm just like, he makes me so nervous. I'm like, oh, please, Monty, just chill right now while Taylor's on the block. Because I do want Taylor to stay this week. I don't want his mind to be changed. But if he wants to switch sides in the future, I think he'll bounce to whomever has power most likely.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think Monty is going to flip. I don't think there's any chance Monty flips
it's so
here.
Scary though.
So Monty does talk to Taylor specifically. He says, "Hey, Taylor, I got to tell you something. Please do not tell a single soul because I will get in so much trouble. But I was talking to Terrence, and he was basically saying, she's like, that he wants to keep Kyle. And he's like, yeah, how'd you know? She's like, he pitched it to Brittany too. He's like, are you serious? He pitched it to Brittany? That is so reckless. Why would he do that?
Terrence thinks he's a really big gamer, and I think that he just doesn't really have a clue. It's obviously Monty is the person to be pitching this to. It maybe like out of everybody that is voting, like he's the most likely or the only person that maybe would be swinging. But yeah, Brittany, no, Terrence.
Yeah. Monty said, I think he just really wants your ass for some reason. It's oh boy. They talk about what to do moving forward. And they agree that they don't really want to put Turner up next week because after what he did, putting Kyle up, Taylor says, like, I don't want the message to be that he did the right thing and then gets punished for it. So she doesn't want to put Turner up on the block if she can avoid that, which means from her perspective, it's Terrence and Alyssa. Now, I don't know what that means if one of them wins the veto or something happens there. But that's definitely where I think Taylor is leaning. Now, from Michael and Brittany's perspective, I think they are looking also at like Terrence and Alyssa, but I would imagine they are even more willing to be like, oops, sorry, Turner, or even, oops, sorry, Monty, especially given what they'll find out or what Brittany will find out later in the night. Because Monty says to Taylor, I just hope that you and Brittany will respect that if I win, I have to go after Michael. And Taylor's like, I get it.
And we all get it at this point. Michael's resume speaks for himself. And so he knows that he's prime target number one. I don't know if I mean, I think he's going to expect it's going to come from Monty as well, especially if he's not an initial nom. He'll be like, I think that they're leaving the door open for me to get backdoored. I think that Michael knows he needs to probably win or go home. So.
Mm. So Turner's going to talk with Brittany and basically pitch that they reheat the leftovers and they don't target each other next week. Now, again, this is something that like Michael and Brittany and Taylor just talked about, like potentially not targeting Turner, but they also don't really trust Turner. I really do think that if Michael or Brittany were to win, I expect that Turner could easily end up in the firing line here. So we will see how that is. And it's also like I get where Taylor's coming from. Like she doesn't want the right thing to be punished or whatever. But it's not like Turner is saying like, okay, I'm sacrificing my game then to take out Kyle this week. I hope nobody turns around and stabs me in the back because of it. Like Turner has said to people and to the cameras, he's only doing this because he thinks it's best for his game. And he's also actively pitching to try to get Taylor voted out over Kyle right now. So,
I mean, maybe she'll get over that if she does win head of household and she has Michael and Brittany being like, we got to take the shot. Like, I think that she could easily be convinced in maybe backdooring Turner as opposed to putting him up as an initial nominee. But like, I think that she'll end up coming around.
Yeah, it's one thing to have this idea in a vacuum without having the ability to make it happen. It's another thing to be in power knowing that you're not going to be in power next week and to feel like you're going to miss the shot. So Kyle is going to talk with Alyssa, and basically she's going to ask like how he is, how he's feeling. And he's like, it's been kind of rough. Kyle's, he's been hanging around all day, kind of to himself a bit, kind of like, just being a little muted. He says, it was rough. Didn't really sleep last night. It was probably like in that moment was probably the worst. It's the worst feeling I've ever felt. Probably the worst day of my life. I felt like I couldn't breathe. She says, "Oh, that's like you had a panic attack. Like you should. I would personally recommend putting some ice on your chest. It can be very soothing." He's like, "Yeah, okay, that's good advice." And she's like, "I do have to go to the diary room right now, though. They did just call me, so we'll totally talk later." Gives him a kiss on the cheek and heads out.
I mean, obviously, like I do feel as though Kyle needs to learn something from the situation and all that, but I do still feel a little bit for him that his world is just falling apart, and now his girlfriend is treating him a little bit differently, and he's having panic. Like I do feel for him a little bit in this situation, but it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that anybody, or I don't think that most people would wish a panic attack
No,
on Kyle or anything like that. But this is what we're dealing with here. So she's gonna go into the diary room. In the meantime, Terrence is gonna talk to Kyle, and they're gonna have a lengthy discussion about Kyle's actions. And Terrence is going to kind of take a crack at explaining to him why they were wrong. And I think that, at least from my perspective, I think he made some good points. I think he made some other points that, I don't know that I personally would completely co-sign. But they were Terrence's points of view in terms of like what he felt in terms of how what Kyle did that was wrong. I think that based on what I've seen, I think most people are in the same boat. Like, didn't really fully co-sign what Terrence was saying. Maybe made a couple of good points. Maybe appreciated that Terrence is trying to educate Kyle, while at the same time feeling like maybe he's being leaning a little too heavily on the forgiveness angle at this time. So he's gonna have this conversation.
And I couldn't listen to it really. I listened on 2x because like I was really frustrated by like yes, I agree. He did make some good points and I was like, okay, like that's a good point. But I'm like, but that's not a great point.
Mhm.
And I don't agree with that. And then your actions to Taylor don't support that. I'm like,
Yeah.
and then what you're saying to Taylor doesn't support that. I'm like, I can't support anything you're saying here. Like it was just making me angry because I felt like he was kind of being a hypocrite, but then taking the stance as like, I know all, and I'm here to teach, and I'm here to offer forgiveness, and this is what I'm giving to this soul, and it's like, but you don't follow through in all aspects of what you are claiming to be teaching. So I didn't listen too intently because it was getting me riled up.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing, which is that like all of this time and energy is being spent on Kyle, like directly after he learned. Like I feel like you can't really talk about forgiveness until Kyle fully knows what it is that he understands and learns, right? Like and especially in the context of like where's the conversation Terrence has had with Taylor about forgiveness? Like,
Mhm.
um, like he like because obviously I feel like Terrence has some apologizing to do to Taylor. But I think from Terrence's point of view, Taylor has some apologizing to do to him. And he hasn't even had the conversation about forgiveness with her in terms of her forgiving him. Or sorry, in terms of him forgiving her.
Yeah.
And it's yeah. So
Agreed. I'm just like Terrence. No legs to stand on here. Like I can't ship this conversation that fully because like how you are in one situation is kind of how you are in all situations, and it just seems to me that he's disingenuous, and so I feel like he's doing having this conversation, it felt to be slightly performative, and that yes, he made some good points, but I don't know if he fully stands by everything that he was saying, and then the offering of forgiveness before it should be warranted, in my opinion, was just really frustrating.
yeah, so basically, he said, I understand that you were sheltered and ignorant, Kyle. Kyle says, and this I think kind of tracks, right? Like, because I
Yeah.
remember early in the season, Kyle had told the whole story about growing up Mormon and how he, it wasn't until sort of somewhat recently in his life that he was able to sort of break away from that, and he came into that game saying, I know that I am ignorant to many things. And I'm taking this as an opportunity to like
Learn.
interact with
Mhm.
people from other cultures who come from different places and have different perspectives so that I can learn more and grow. And he says, yeah, I came into this game with that mindset. And then somewhere along the line, I lost that mindset and I lost that perspective. And here I am. Right. And so um, that's kind of where Kyle is at in terms of what we've been able to see on the feed so far. Terrence lets him know that he does prefer that Kyle stay in the game and continue on his journey to learn. Forgiveness is important, and
Learning in the jury house is quite fine,
yeah,
quite fine. Like, like he gets the full experience. He'll have to have conversations, most likely with Joseph, as to like why he, left the game, what happened, and the conversation could still be extended out into the jury house where he will be able to learn and grow, and people will be able to offer him forgiveness there in the jury house. So don't, it's fine, Terrence. Like he's gonna be able to get his learnings happening.
but and so Terrence offers to like sit in on other conversations that Kyle's gonna have, like with Taylor and Monty, and so that he can help support Kyle in those moments. And Kyle is just like, oh my God, Terrence, I appreciate you so much. I do not deserve this much kindness, but I will never forget it. Thank you so much here. It's you're saving my life right now. basically.
I mean, I appreciate that Kyle appreciated this conversation that Terrence had with him. I'm sure that many of the other house guests would have been willing to have the conversation with him as well. But I mean, I'm happy that he's got some learning from it so far. So I'm happy that he's on hopefully a trajectory of learning, understanding, and acceptance to come. So I'm happy that he's taken some good points away from this.
Yes, we will see.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I think the thing that I've learned the most watching these situations play out so many times on Big Brother is, and you know, not even just in Big Brother, in life too. It's like you really like the moment after the thing happens, like like there's nothing that can be said or done, I think, you know, that indicates what will happen in the future. Really, right? Like you know, it's, and the same thing with like X interviews that we have where it's like, oh, you know, I'll watch and then we'll figure it out. And then, you know, a month later they're
bashing everybody on
yeah.
an
So it's
Instagram
like
live.
you know, it's like for me it's always just gonna be like,
We'll
look,
see.
sounds great, talk to me, you know, 6 months from now. You know what I mean? Like you can't just instantly change, you know. So but we'll see. We'll see.
We'll keep an eye on him.
Yeah. So Alyssa is going to talk to Turner, and she's first of all getting sick of Brittany pestering her. It's giving her anxiety. It's Brittany's. They're asking about like who said what last week, and they're talking about all these things, and the relationship between Brittany and Alyssa has been pretty much severed at this point. So that's no longer really there. They also talk about Terrence wanting to keep Kyle. Turner says, I'd be down for that, but Monty doesn't seem to be on board. And Alyssa says, look, nobody else is voting to keep Kyle. I'm not voting to keep Kyle. I will be voting Kyle out. She says, especially because after this game, I don't think that I'm going to be with him. And for many reasons, you know, one is that, first of all, he had a final two with you, Turner. He's like, I'm sorry. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It's just like just another thing he was lying to me about. Second, like, I'm his girlfriend, not his showmance. It's been like a while of us being committed to each other.
You say I love you.
Yeah. And in this whole he called me his showmance in front of everyone after everything. And just like I would have done anything for him in this game. It's so frustrating that I would have done so much for him, and I don't think that was reciprocated in any real way. And now he's pulled me into this narrative that now I'm a part of without my consent. That, you know, I know he grew up religious and this comes from a place of ignorance and not malice, but now that's my story too, and I'm not okay with that. I don't support that in any way. Like, Turner, like, we say I love you, and I do. I love him a lot, but there's so many times that there's too many times that I've shown up for him and he hasn't shown up for me, except for maybe not using the veto, which congratulations. And apparently he wouldn't have even done it if you hadn't backed him up. So I don't know. I told him this morning that I can be a friend to him, but that's probably as far as I can give him right now. And Turner's like, oh, so you guys broke up? He's like, not officially. But, you know, he kept telling me like, oh, break up with me. And then literally the doorbell rings and Kyle's at the door.
So many awkward. I mean, I understand where Alyssa's coming from, absolutely. But there's so many signs that this was going on beforehand. So, I mean, at least she's gotten her wake up call now. And who knows if they're in the jury house together and they rekindle things, like maybe she'll change her mind. But I do think it's probably best for her game right now to vote Kyle out. So it'll be hard, but I think she should.
Yeah, so later she's going to talk to, after Kyle leaves again, she's going to talk more with Turner. She says, please don't tell him I told you any of this. Like how many times do you need to be burned by Turner? Turner's not going to tell Kyle
Or
now,
Kyle.
but
Like, come on.
geez. And also like just like the final stamp on like this, high school slash middle school, maybe high school relationship, is that like, they've always talked to Turner before talking to each other, basically, and she's now like basically telling Turner that she's gonna break up with him before she tells Kyle. She says, don't tell him about this, we haven't broken up yet. I told him I'd let him know by Thursday, and I think that the answer is gonna be break up. So
She should just be like, if I vote to keep you, we're still together. If I don't, it's done.
I think that, because I've seen a lot of people saying like, we've heard this story before by Alyssa, like this isn't gonna happen. But I feel like this is definitely the turning point. I think, right? Like, I don't think you can underestimate the impact that like Kyle's diminished stature, right, in the house, in society, like he's no longer like the
Top
guy.
dog.
Yeah, like he's now like the hurt puppy who feels sympathy toward, but I don't know if there's the same, if he has the same hold over her, because
Mhm.
it wasn't, because like, at least look, I'm gonna go deep into wild speculation about relationships here, but like I never felt like their relationship was one of like genuine care and affection. I kind of
Mhm.
felt like it was a lot of like,
Me too.
uh
I'm so bored. I'm so horny.
and I didn't love the way that he handled her, and I didn't love the way that, like, I feel like, again, it was like a high school relationship. And so when you're on that level of like cracked foundation, something like this, I think, is definitely capable of just shattering it. But we'll see.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that I didn't think that pool floaty was a good structure to base their relationship on. I definitely think that they might both find each other attractive to a certain extent, but I think that outside of this house, there's no way that they would have really gravitated towards each other. I think that it's just like circumstantial. So the fact that there was just a lot of things leading up to them not really being a good match. I think she's just like, I'm going to take this ticket out of this relationship thing because I don't think it's going to get any better.
Yes. So Alyssa and Turner agree. They're all they have left. Final two, the two of them now. Turner also has this with Monty, but he is also going to have it here with Alyssa. So Taylor is going to talk with Brittany and let Brittany know that Monty wants to take a shot at Michael. And Brittany's like, "Oh, really? Like at Final Four, right?" Taylor's like, "Nah, like next week." She's like, "Oh, I mean, look, I'm totally cool with taking the shot at Michael. Obviously, he's got to go, but I feel like we got to get to at least four. Like, earlier than four is just not good for us, don't you think? Like, it's not great."
I mean, I understand where Brittany's coming from, but like, if someone else is going to take the shot, I think that she should just let them do that. I know that she wants to go as far as she can with Michael, and she says that she's willing to do it later on. It's just I just don't think that she will, and for her own game, I think it's just better to let him go, and that it's going to give them more opportunities to be able to win something. Like Michael has been winning everything. Maybe she will have some power after that and be able to maybe guide her way to the end. And so I get wanting to keep her, and she feels safe with him there, knowing that he's usually with some power, is willing to take her off and stuff like that. But if she wants to win the game, she might have to allow that shot to be taken.
I mean, I definitely like. I would say letting get to four might be a bit much,
Or
but
it's a little
if
bit
he leaves
dangerous.
at seven, then now she has to deal with the fact that Alyssa, Terrence, Turner, and Monty have basically an onion structure amongst themselves. And they are like both her and Taylor are pretty locked out of that. Taylor at least has Monty as the in there to potentially break it up. But Brittany is definitely just like completely powerless without Michael for the next few weeks if he leaves.
2 weeks.
So
4 though, 4 just seems so scary.
Four is definitely. I think if you let Michael get to 4, then he very good chance he just straight wins the game. So personally, if I'm Brittany and I care about winning, I'm gonna try to get through at least the next round. I need at least Turner or Monty gone next. Then ideally everyone is taking the shot at Michael until he finally leaves. If Michael wins out from 6, like what are you gonna do? But that would be my play if I'm Brittany. The thing is, I don't think Brittany is entirely self-interested. I think that she's perfectly fine with Michael winning out from 4, and I think that's where she's coming from.
Which is, I mean, like, I understand making these bonds with people and, wanting to go to the end and being loyal to a particular person. I totally understand that type of game and not wanting to be self-interested. So I get it. But she's going to have to let Michael go if she wants to win the game, most likely.
Yes. Now, a little bit later, Taylor is going to say, look, I hope you win HOH. I would love to see you have an HOH. And Brittany's like, me too. I want to protect our friend. And Taylor's like, I tried hard to pay attention to Taylor's body language here. And Taylor's response was kind of like, yep. And then she looked down. And I was kind of like, ooh, yeah. I don't know if she's quite as on board with this as you are, Britt. Let me say this. I don't think that Taylor will take a shot at Michael. I don't. Not next week, at least. But I do think that Taylor agrees with letting Monty take the shot next week. I don't think that Taylor will be like, Monty, don't do it. I think she'll be like, all right, Monty, do what you got to do. So that's where I'm personally feeling Taylor is leaning at the moment. Brittany starts crying, maybe because she also caught the body language. But I just care too much about you guys.
I love you guys so much.
Yeah. And Taylor's like, I just think a lot of people see him in the way of them winning the game. And Brittany's like, well, yeah, he is for us too. But the longer he's in the game, the better things are for us. He's a shield in front of us. Taylor agrees. And Taylor says, I think the numbers look good for us next week. I think we're probably okay. And that's true. I mean, even if Monty is on the other side, I've been saying this so much, but even if Monty is on the other side and we'll take the shot at Michael, it's still 3-3 next week. After everything, it's still 3-3.
Yeah, it's definitely, they still have, and they're I would say are stronger competitively than the other 3. So I think that they're in a decent position just to get through maybe 1 or 2 more rounds, and then they can maybe let Michael go. But I think they're fine for a couple rounds.
Yeah. So, we're in a spot now where, next week, Michael and Brittany probably target at least one of Turner, Alyssa, Terrence, with the possibility of targeting Monty, in my opinion, especially now that Brittany knows that Monty's coming for Michael as soon as next week. I could, again, I've said this before, but if Michael wins the next HOH, is he really going to let Monty through a 3rd HOH after he considered it the first and second time? I don't think so, but it's not quite in the cards yet, but I think it's definitely in the cards. Taylor, I think, just goes straight for Terrence or Alyssa. I think she doesn't deviate from that. If one of them wins the veto, I think Turner goes up. I think she says, sorry, Turner, I tried, but what am I going to do? And I think Monty, Alyssa, and Terrence all attempt to backdoor Michael. And if they fail, different people probably leave, but probably Brittany at this point, I think, over Taylor, especially with Monty's influence. Of course, though, if they're trying to backdoor Michael and they put Brittany up, then Brittany will be safe again. So they might not do that. I don't know. It depends on their, situation, their attempts at who to nominate and when. So really, I guess what I'm saying is I think almost anybody could leave based on the nomination structure, but primarily I think we're looking at I think Alyssa, I think Turner, maybe Monty, Michael, Brittany.
Terrence even.
I think personally, I think Terrence is still
The safest.
a little less likely to be evicted than Alyssa,
Fair.
but who knows? He's like Alyssa has performed so poorly in comps as well. But they don't really see Terrence as a threat. They talked about this. That Terrence basically he came in second place to win an HOH, and they really feel like, based on what has been said, that the only reason he won the veto is because he had a spot that didn't have wind.
Right?
And so they really still don't see her as much of a threat, or see him as much of a threat. They also don't see Alyssa as much of a threat. But either way, I think that if it's between the two of them, it could be Alyssa, it could be Terrence. And then even Taylor, I think, has some niche scenarios where she leaves. Like, for instance, hold on, actually, let me think about this. Taylor and Brittany go up on the block to backdoor Michael again, let's say. And Michael wins the veto, pulls down Brittany. Let's say Terrence is the HOH. Maybe he does nominate Monty as the replacement, and it's Monty versus Taylor.
It'd be a tie, and then Terrence.
It's 2-2. Terrence probably sends Taylor home, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that would require a Terrence or perhaps Alyssa HOH win. Monty himself would probably nominate like Terrence and Brittany to backdoor Michael. So I would say Taylor is probably my safest, followed by like Terrence and Alyssa, and then Monty, and then
Michael.
And then like Michael, Brittany, Turner, I think are all pretty in danger. So yeah, I think that's what we got.
I totally agree with your breakdown here. I do think that they're all going to be there. Like most people, other than Taylor, agreed, are probably in a little bit of danger depending on who wins that power.
Mm-hmm. All right. So anything else that we should bring up here, Chantele?
Well, it's actually not specific to the game, but I think it's an interesting thing that I may have figured out. So Brittany is a hypnotherapist, and I'm also a hypnotherapist, and she led a group guided meditation for the whole group. And this was the first time I actually listened to it fully. And it was familiar, some of like the phrases and like how things are kind of done. And I think that we were trained by the same person. And
Really?
I started to think about it. And I was asking, because I worked for that same the company where like the school, I worked for the school. So I was organizing all the workshops for the certification. And I think that she is in cohort 2 and I was in cohort 3, I think. And so I'm trying to investigate now and get them to see, because like I don't have access to my emails and all that stuff anymore. So I literally may have had like conversations with her being like, can you reschedule your workshop to a such and such a date? Because her name, as soon as I looked at her last name, I was like, that name is familiar. I remember that name in an Excel spreadsheet. I remember that. Like I started to remember. I don't know if I'm faking a memory, but with the language that was used, she follows our coach on our mentor on Instagram. I was like, that's the only hypnotherapist person on Instagram that I could see that she followed really readily. So I do think that we've had the same hypnotherapy training. At least one.
I think that I'm going to have to start playing this. Maybe I'll get you some separate creepy music, because there's something going on with Chantele and connections to Big Brother house guests.
Right? Isn't this wild? Like I was listening and I was like, I was actually saying it alongside with her, because there's a few scripts that you practice with. And then obviously once you have them loosely memorized, you can take them in any direction that you want. But there's just the one thing that was for sure is at the end, it's like, and 10 and arms over your top of your head. And the word is yes, is how our coach, or my coach anyways, would finish many of her scripts. So I was like, I think she studied with the same woman.
I mean, I think that we need to figure out how solid this is, because if it's true, I think that basically what that indicates is that Brittany is the winner of Big Brother 24. Is that
oh my gosh!
Is that what's happening here?
Oh my goodness! I wouldn't be surprised. actually, to be honest. I have like messaged all the people because I'm in contact with them. And so I'm gonna see if someone returns the calls because they can easily just go in and see who is in which cohort. And I'm trying to see if I can figure it out from like I just don't have access to that email that I used when I worked for them. And so I don't have anything to verify. But if I go home, I'm gonna go and see if I even maybe I could have even had a session with Brittany because like when I was organizing all the workshops, I definitely sat in if I needed an extra participant. And so I'm like, oh, this maybe I might have even had a workshop session with Brittany. I'm not sure about that for sure, but definitely I think that she studied with the same woman, and I have a suspicion that she was cohort 2 and I was cohort 3. I think so. So I'm investigating this right now. So that's what's going on with me. I thought it was really cool.
It is very cool. Wow, look at that. Well, we'll see. We'll see if Chantele is like the
the oracle,
the oracle, the lucky, the muse that creates Big Brother winners. We'll see. Well, that's what we have for you then today. Thank you all so much for joining us. Of course, you can find me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, hanging out, watching episodes, and chatting about various things, including all of this Kyle stuff. I talked at length on my Twitch channel in the most recent VOD after the game we played on Sunday. And then, of course, the Sunday recap as well. In the spoiler section, we went into deep depth about what's happening in the house and our thoughts on it. Please do not bother trying to argue with us, at least until you've listened to, because I still haven't even had a single person trying to make any case that has that clearly has listened to the thing yet. Like they're making points that we directly addressed in those things all the time. But anyway, check all that stuff out. Of course, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, or maybe a little bit later tonight, but we will see how it goes. We will have the Roundtable Stock Watch this week. We'll see where everything goes here.
Oh, okay. And we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. So if you want to fill out the survey, I'll be tweeting it out on Twitter at ArmstrongTaran after this podcast ends. You can rate the players yourself and give all kinds of thoughts and opinions. So go ahead and fill that out just after this. And of course, tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, back here to update on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 24 live feeds. And it's about what we got. Chantele, what are you up to?
Definitely, you can find me on Instagram at ShanFriendFran. All my socials for all of my Instagram accounts that I have and et cetera, are there. And then on YouTube, I have a channel, Reality Realness with 3 S's. Subscribe and we'll go and hang out and talk about love shows for the most part and the challenge.
All right. Well, that's what we've got for you. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. And I will see all of you next time.